The wind crawled along the windows of the derelict Arlington Hospital as if it were a living thing, rubbing itself against the glass with a hoarse, patient whisper. Mara kept her flashlight low to avoid catching her own reflection, because every time she glimpsed her face in the broken panes, she noticed something wrong with the eyes, a lag, a missing frame between seeing and being seen. She told herself it was adrenaline. She told herself this was just another location shoot. Audio rolling, Theo said. His knit cap sat crooked, one earphone off, the recorder bobbing like a silver heart. Behind him, Jin leveled the tripod, its rubber feet leaving neat circles in dust that looked like sifted ash. They had filmed abandoned places for 2 years, schools emptied by storms, factories surrendered to rust, sanctuaries that had collapsed into their own shadows, but nothing felt like this. The building seemed to lean toward them, as if listening. They moved through the old maternity ward. A row of bassinets slept behind cracked plexiglass. Names still clung to masking tape in faded loops of blue ink. A murmur rose from the vents, deep and steady. It sounded like a river under the floor, like a throat learning to speak in a room with no one else in it. Slate, Mara whispered. She clapped once. The sound went out and did not return. Theo frowned at his levels. Dead space eats the tail, he said, pretending to joke. No one laughed. They had come because of the clips 10 seconds long, posted by throwaway accounts. Always the same, a layered chorus of unplaceable vowels, as if voices were testing a brand new alphabet. In the background, a monitor beeped too slow. A comment thread had traced one clip to this basement. 2 teenagers claimed they had slipped inside at night. They left after a door kept closing on its own, inch by inch, without wind. Jin framed the hallway, a dull river of speckled tile, wheel scuffs etched into ox. The ceiling grid sagged, and the fluorescent housings were skeletal with a mineral frost. Far down the corridor, something glowed. Not a lamp, not heater suggestion. A place the room seemed to remember. Thermal, Theo asked. Mara shook her head. The glow wasn't warmth. It was a promise. A hush spread along her arms. She remembered a shell she'd held as a child. The ocean thundering inside it like the world breathing through a pinhole. Router, she said, straight and back. No detours. She lifted the boom, counted down with her fingers, and they moved. The deeper they walked, the louder the murmur in the vents. It separated into layers, an electrical hum, a draft, and a repetition too fast to resolve. It wasn't any language. It was the outline of one. The smell changed to not rot, not mold, but clean and metallic, like a freezer forgotten at the bottom of a lake. At room 108, the door hung ajar. Fingerprints had melted the dust into dark ovals, like the suggestion of applause. The first shelves rose like walls on either side, warped under the weight of swollen binders. Mara ran her beam across the spines, patient logs, discharge summaries, investigational notes. Each was blistered by damp, ink migrating like veins through paper. The glow traced the aisles, not uniform but pulsing, like the beat of a heart pressed against plaster. Theo muttered levels under his breath. The recorder hissed, then dropped into silence, then returned with a crispness that cut to sharp. It's reading higher than my voice, he whispered. Like something's closer to the mic than me. Jin steadied the tripod again. His knuckles were white. The lens forked at its edges as if the air itself exhaled. He wiped it, but the film returned instantly, his skin renewing itself. We should document just one row and leave. Mara swallowed. Her tongue tasted of iron. 5 minutes, she repeated. She aimed her flashlight down the central aisle, and the beam bent, not by angle but by decision, sliding toward a single binder that bulged as if it had been breathing against its cover for years. The binder fell before she reached it. The snap echoed like bone. Pages spilled, fluttering even though the air was still. They fell flat but did not rest. Each sheet trembled as if something beneath the paper struggled to surface. Names in neat type ran down the lines. Halfway through, the ink blurred into shape she could not name. Symbols with the tilt of language, but the intent of something older. Every third line ended in the same mark, a circle cleaved by a vertical line. It hurt to look at it too long, as if the sign itself hummed. Theo aimed the recorder. The hiss rose into clarity. It was voices now, layered whispers, each repeating different syllables of the same unfinished word. The sound pinned Mara's pulse to her ribs, each beat out of step with her own body. She felt her breath stagger, as though the building was trying to breathe for her. "Don't speak," she warned. "Just don't." The whispering persisted. It was not in the air. It was under the skin of the place. Jin framed the shelves. His monitor bloomed with light that wasn't there. An after image that painted a figure bent between the binders. A shoulder, an arm, the suggestion of a head turning. But when Mara swept her light across the gap, nothing stood there. The pages stilled all at once. The glow shrank, gathering into a knot at the far end of the aisle. It wasn't a light anymore. It was a door-shaped absence. The edges flickered like breath on glass. Mara felt her hand lift, not by will but by imitation, as though her body answered a call older than memory. She dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, and shadows bent wrong, stretching toward the knot instead of away from it. Theo's voice cracked. "It wants us too." A crash swallowed his words. A shelf toppled across the aisle, slammed the tiles, dust mushrooming into their throats. The archive shifted behind them, shelves closing like teeth. The three explorers stood rigid as the glow dimmed, leaving only Mara's trembling beam to cut the dark. Her flashlight seemed weaker, as though the walls drank the light before it could settle. Every step backward sounded doubled, as if someone else followed a half-second late. Theo's recorder clicked again. Its meter spiked, and then flatlined, as though it were capturing something too steady to be human. "It's reading a heartbeat," he whispered, "but none of us are close enough for it to catch one." He pressed the device to his chest. The line stayed flat. He lowered it. The line pulsed. The sound came from the building itself. Jin steadied the tripod, though his hands shook so badly the legs rattled. He focused down an aisle. The viewfinder showed the stairwell again. But when Mara turned her light, only shelves met her beam. "It's mapping something that isn't there," Jin said. "It's showing us the building's memory." The word memory hung between them like frost. From the ceiling above, a drip echoed. "Water," they thought, until the sound split into syllables. Not words, not yet just syllables rehearsing themselves. Consonants searching for a spine. Mara moved first. She pressed her palm against the nearest shelf. The wood was warm, wrong for this cold. The warmth pulsed once, in rhythm with the recorder. Her handprint lingered, darkening as though it had been drawn from the inside. The hum through the floor deepened. She knew if she pulled away too quickly, something would follow her hand out. 5 minutes, she muttered again. Her voice was thin, but the shelves answered in low vibration, carving her words in tone without language. The floor groaned, as though descending, lowering them all into her throat. They reached the far aisle. The glow reappeared not ahead but beneath, spilling between the cracks of the floor like candlelight seen through thin boards. "Sublevel under the sublevel," Theo said, though no map they'd read showed it. The light throbbed, brighter each second, until the tiles grew translucent. Mara saw movement under her shoes, figures shifting in rows, their outlines blurred but undeniably human. They were not standing, they were suspended, waiting. Jin aimed the camera down. His lens caught what her eyes couldn't. Faces, dozens of them, turned upward, mouths open as if mid-syllable. They looked ready to speak, but their expressions were paused in the inhale. Never exhale. The spiral widened as if it were waiting for them to step. Each tile glowed faintly, a heartbeat under stone, and the figures beneath pressed their palms upward. Following with silent devotion, Mara pulled the others back, but their bodies leaned forward, every muscle coaxed by the rhythm. It was less invitation, more arithmetic, a countdown to a place where refusal didn't exist. Theo muttered, "It knows our number." His lips barely moved. 3. It wants 3. The recorder, though dropped into the floor, still clicked somewhere below. Each pulse rolled up through the spiral like sonar, mapping their hesitation. Mara tightened her grip on the flashlight, her knuckles straining. She thought of breaking it against the tiles, disrupting the rhythm. But the thought carried weight, as if the building already disapproved. Jin's camera whirred again, though its battery was gone. The lens adjusted, focusing down the spiral. On his small screen, the staircase was not empty. Shapes descended ahead of them, shadows without owners. They walked in perfect time, backs bent, hands clasped in front like penitents. Their steps never ended. The spiral folded beneath them, recreating itself endlessly. Mara shook him, but Jin only whispered syllables. Each was sharper, closer to a word. The air pressed against her ears, making it hard to breathe. She recognized the cadence now. Hospital announcements. Those tinny voices paging doctors across echoing halls. The building was teaching itself to speak with authority. A draft lifted from below, cold and sterile. It smelled of gauze, iodine, something clean enough to be cruel. Theo's chest hitched. His eyes rolled, caught between fear and recognition. "I know this," he said. "It's not calling us down, it's calling us back." The spiral dropped another layer, tiles rearranging with the patience of a clock. Mara's boots slipped toward the edge. She anchored herself against a shelf, wood groaning under her grip. "Don't look at it," she commanded. "We hold, we wait." But her own eyes betrayed her. The glow bent her gaze like gravity. Below, the faces in the mist turned upward. They were clearer now, detail sharpening, eyes stitched closed, mouths wide and unfinished, waiting to be taught words. The first voice broke free. It was not theirs. It rose from the mist, childlike, uncertain. Closer, the same word, but spoken with hunger this time. The faces mouthed it together. The spiral pulsed in agreement. Comma. Jin dropped the tripod. It clattered but did not echo. The sound sank like stone into water. He stepped forward once, compelled. Mara grabbed his jacket, yanking him back. "Don't give it rhythm," she snapped. "It's luring us." But the floor quivered, amused, aligning its hum to her heartbeat again. Every denial fed it. The shelves around them shifted. Binders slid, spilling pages. The air filled with paper wings. Each sheet carried the same mark, the circle cleaved by a line. Mara's flashlight flickered, as though the glow below it drained power from her hand. She pressed herself against the shelf, but its wood throbbed like a vein, steady as a metronome. Jin stood at the edge, 1 foot hovering above the first glowing step, his eyes glassy with surrender. Theo knelt, chest laboring, whispering the syllables as if he had known them since childhood. The spiral did not tremble anymore. It waited. Mara lunged, pulling Jin back. His body resisted, heavier than it should have been, as though gravity itself wanted him. She slapped him across the cheek. The sound cracked through the hum, jagged and human. His eyes cleared for a moment. "It knows our names," he whispered, terrified. "It's saying them without saying them." Theo gagged, retching dryly. His throat convulsed as if trying to birth a voice not his own. Mara grabbed him, but his skin was icy. His heartbeat syncopated with the spiral's rhythm. The mist below rose higher, wrapping his knees, his waist. It clung like gauze, smelling faintly of antiseptic. The faces under the translucent floor opened their mouths wider, their stitched eyelids trembling as though they strained against thread. The shells groaned. Binders fell in synchronized thuds, each one landing open to a page with their names scrawled across it. Mara, Theo, Jin. The handwriting was shaky, but fresh, ink bleeding into paper as if it had just been written. She tore one binder free, shoving it shut, but another fell open behind her. Pages multiplied, each copy sharper, more insistent. The building wasn't recording them, it was rewriting them. "Stop looking," Mara shouted, but her own gaze betrayed her. The spiral tilted in her vision, demanding center, drawing her toward its pit. For an instant, she saw not herself, but another Morgaunt, translucent, already descending with perfect devotion. Her double moved ahead, and resting on the shoulder of a shadow like it was kin. Theo suddenly exhaled, a violent sound, and the mist poured into his mouth. He convulsed, body seizing, then went still. His head rose, eyes clouded, and he spoke in the clear voice of a hospital intercom. "Three admitted, 2 observed, 1 pending." Jin screamed, wrenching free of Moreau's grip. He kicked the tripod aside and clutched his camera like a weapon. He swung the lens toward Theo, flash firing. The burst of light shattered the hum for a heartbeat. Theo collapsed, body his own again. But his lips still moved silently, finishing words the light had not erased. The spiral responded. Its glow fled, mist erupting upward, forcing them back. The shells splintered, releasing a downpour of pages. Symbols burned on the paper midair, each one different, as though the building had decided to accelerate, to finish its language now that resistance slowed it. Mara dragged Theo by the collar, forcing him behind her. "We're not part of your record," she shouted at the glow. Then the building retaliated. The spiral surged upward, tile snapping into place like teeth closing. The first step rose level with the floor, then the second. The staircase was no longer descending, it was climbing, floor swallowing floor, bringing whatever waited below closer with each pulse. The faces pressed harder against the translucent glow, hands smearing shapes on the underside of the tiles. They weren't pleading, they were reaching, claiming. Jin fired his camera again, but the flash only reflected pages spinning around them. Every sheet stamped with their faces now, not names. Portraits burned into paper, distorted, but recognizable. Mara snatched one midair. Her eyes stared back at her, but the mouth was sewn shut, waiting to be opened by something else. The spiral's glow reached their feet. Mist thickened, wrapping their legs, tugging with patient insistence. Theo whimpered, "It's already written. We can't." But Mara cut him off, slapping the page across his chest. "Then we tear it out," she hissed. She ripped the sheet in half. The glow dimmed, just slightly, but enough for a silence to drip back into the air. The building seemed to inhale, shocked. The hum fractured into jagged beats. The spiral hesitated mid-pulse. For the first time, Mara felt it vulnerable, as though the hospital itself hadn't expected disobedience. But the pause was brief. The mist recoiled, then slammed upward with ferocity, wrapping them fully in white. Mara held her light high, but the beam bounced back, swallowed by fog. Theo coughed until blood streaked his lips. Jin snapped photo after photo, flash carving brief holes of clarity that vanished instantly. Each burst showed something closer, climbing the spiral with patient steps. The last flash revealed its face, stitched eyes, open mouth, speaking now with stolen breath. "Ma," the spiral pressed higher, a living staircase gnashing toward them. Mist drowned the shells, curling around their throats like hands. Pages spun with their faces, their mouths sewn shut on paper though still open in flesh. Theo convulsed, gasping syllables that weren't his, each one tightening the room. Jin's camera fired until the flash cracked, its bulb hissing dead. Mara held her flashlight against the mist as if light alone could write. An ulo into the air. The building spoke again. Not hum, not whisper. A complete voice, calm and certain, like a doctor reciting discharge notes. 3. The shells rattled. Observed. The tiles pulsed. Admitted. The spiral shook with satisfaction. It had them catalogued, filed, written into its archive. Only one word left to finish the record. Mara screamed against it. Her throat tore, but her voice carved through the rhythm. "We are not yours," she shouted. The glow faltered, papers scattering wild. The mist shrieked not sound, but sensation, drilling behind her eyes. She stumbled forward, grabbing Theo by the collar. He coughed, his body rejecting the borrowed syllables. But his eyes rolled white again. His mouth moved in silence, finishing a sentence she couldn't stop. Jin pressed a torn page to the tiles, his hands shaking. The symbol burned through, circle cleaved by line, imprinting itself into the stone. The spiral recoiled like a struck beast. The glow shattered, revealing for an instant what lay below. Not rooms, not floors, but endless beds stacked into eternity, each with a figure waiting, stitched eyes quivering, mouths poised to speak the next word. The mist surged upward, furious. Mara ripped the page from Jin's hands. She tore it into pieces and flung them into the spiral. The glow dimmed, fractured into threads. The shells cracked, binders bursting, a storm of names screaming into air. A flashlight flickered, then steadied, beam slicing through the mist. For the first time, the glow recoiled fully, folding inward like a wound trying to close. Theo collapsed, his chest heaved, his own breath finally free. Jin stared at the fading spiral, tears streaking his dusted face. "It's not finished," he whispered. "It'll rewrite itself. It always does." Mara pulled them both to their feet. "Then we don't let it." She drove her flashlight into the crack of the nearest shelf, splintering wood, forcing collapse. The shelves fell one after another, dominoing into the spiral, crushing the glowing steps. The mist wailed, a final chorus of syllables, desperate to complete its word. But the shelves sealed the gap, burying the glow under rubble and dust. Silence. For the first time since entering, silence was true. No hum, no whisper, just their ragged breaths and the sound of paper settling like ash.